Hey guys, welcome back to A. Williams Productions, and today we'll be creating another cool tutorial. We'll be using Cinema 4D, we'll be using After Effects, but what we'll be recreating is something that I've been seeing on Instagram a lot. So people are using these characters and they're dancing and doing different things, but they're interacting with the iPhone or different things within the environment in their home. So it's not as hard as you would think. So I'll walk you through the steps. But to give you an example, this is what I created. This is what you saw in the intro. So it's a pretty cool tutorial. It doesn't take long at all. Get a realistic shadow, and you can add in the character using Mixamo into your footage. So we'll go ahead and just jump right in. So you're gonna find your footage. So for me, footage is in the computer track folder. All right. So this is your footage, and mine is in 4K, 23 frames per second. So I'm just gonna drag it in. And one thing that I go ahead and change at the beginning is my workspace. Because we're compositing, I change it to 32 bits. You can keep it at 8 bits, but what we're doing is allowing the computer to have more information or work with more information. So we're gonna go to Effects, Presets, go to Curves, and drag this on. And if you don't see this panel, you can change your workspaces here, or you can go to Window, Workspace, or you can also go to Effects and Presets, make sure that's checked, and that panel should pop up. All right, what we're gonna do is just create a contrast. So create an S-curve. And this is a tip I always do because sometimes the tracker might have a difficult time pulling the track right. Then I go ahead and pre-compose. Move all attributes into a new composition. Right? So we have those steps. Now I find a piece of the footage. So for me, I shot it at a very low aperture. So that's kind of can cause issues with the track sometimes because of the blurriness. So what I'm going to do is actually find the area that I think is pretty clear, that doesn't have a lot of blurriness in it, in the main area where I'm trying to be. So hit B, which will shorten the timeline to where you want to be in the beginning, and say I want to go here right before the blurriness begins. Let's see. Hit N, and then go to trim comp to work area. All right. So what we're going to do now before we track is, well, first we're going to make sure we can get a good track. So we're gonna go to Window, Tracker, that panel will pop up, and then you should track it. So this will take a moment. For me, it's still initializing, yeah. So I'll jump right back when it comes back, but I have 229 frames to analyze. All right guys, the tracker has done its thing. So when you scan through your footage, or if you're using the footage that I provided in the link below, you should see these trackers. So this seems to be pretty good. So as you can see, we're gonna select first the area that we believe is like accurate with the perspective that seems like where the floor would be. And we're gonna you're gonna select this area, and you should actually just see as you scroll through like this little target area start to populate. So I think this one right here is in perspective. So right click it set ground plane and origin. Now we're gonna go back to, if you want, I like the same one, set solid, will create solid and camera. So they'll be kind of like the floor. So I'm gonna select the track solid, just hit R. You can rotate it to align it up even better if you want. You don't have to, but I like to do this. All right, so we're gonna go back to the footage. Click on the 3D camera tracker so the trackers come back. Or you're gonna just populate a few more. Create solid, create solid, create solid, create solid. So that looks pretty good. And if you want, you can click on all of them, hit S, and bring the scale down. But this will help you just remember where the scene is and where things are when you're in 3D. So Command A, U, they'll hide all the keyframes again just to keep everything clean in the timeline. All right, so everything stays tracked, so that's pretty good. So now we're gonna go File, Save As, and save your project. We're gonna do football, but it's soccer. All right, now that we have that, everything's looking good, it's still sticking. We're gonna go to File, Export, Mixamo C4D Exporter. Save, just name it the same, keep everything consistent. Save it to the desktop because that's where I save mine. And now we're going to save out. So sorry, let me go back. You can first turn the audio off just in case, because right now we don't really need the audio. You can turn the eyeballs over here in the timeline off because we don't need them to show in what we're about to do next. You're going to go into your pre-comp layer, click on it, and uncheck that curves. You don't want this on because that was really just to help the tracker when you're going back to composite, unless you want it. You want to work with the natural flat image so you can composite the character back into the footage more realistically. So this is important. So you can uncheck or delete that, but I just uncheck it. Then you can close your composition and just X out of that. Now we're going to go to File, Export, Add to Render Queue. And what we're going to do is render out a PNG sequence of the footage. So we're going to go to Format, PNG sequence. You can keep everything the same. Output to desktop. We're going to just change the name again. Football, save it to a subfolder. Football. So this creates a folder for your images to go in. And what I did is change the name of the image sequence. So all you have to do is hit render and let it do its thing. And it's going to render out, will create a PNG sequence of your footage, which is going to be helpful in post. So I'll come back after this is done and then we can continue. All right, guys, we are back and the timeline is finished with the export, is finished rendering out the images. If you can look at mine and it looks a little different, I actually switched to the first version that I used to make this. It had the original clip that I used. So if you can look at this, it looks a little different. I switched to the original clip that was used to make the animation that you saw at the very beginning. I already had PNG sequences rendered out for that, so I just want to go ahead and use those, but this is the same thing there, so nothing has changed. So you actually can turn all of this off and just use the eyeballs. Now we're gonna actually jump into Cinema 4D for the first time. So if you have After Effects, I'll be using Cinema 4D R20. If you have After Effects, I believe you can still do everything using After Effects Cinema 4D Lite that comes with After Effects, especially if you have Creative Cloud. So just go into wherever your actual applications are, and you can find Cinema 4D Lite right here. So you can open that. For me, I'll just be opening mine in Cinema 4D R20. So I want to go to the football clip that we just created, and we're going to hit play. Everything seems to be playing right. So already, step one, done. That's pretty cool. So your footage is tracked. You have all the track data right here. Excuse me, let me switch my interface on something you're probably more familiar with. All right, so here's your camera. All your files that you just created in After Effects are right here in this click down folder. So your tracked camera and your solids. So that's pretty cool. So right now we have that. We're going to jump down here and double click in the material panel. Double click. We're going to uncheck reflectance. Click on color. Click this arrow near texture. Load image. You're going to find the folder that you just saved those images. So for me, this is my folder. Click the very first one, hit open. Hit no. All right, so we're gonna double click in here. We're gonna go to animation, calculate. Then we're gonna go to editor. We're gonna go to animated preview or animate preview. All right. Now we're gonna go to up here, background. Drag the texture you just created onto the background. Now you should hit play. You should be able to see the footage you just created or you just tracked. So that's really cool. All right, we're gonna hit pause. And if it's still going, you can hit escape. It'll stop it as well. We're gonna go to file, save. Now we're gonna jump to Google Chrome or whatever you use. We're gonna search Mixamo. This is for a site for people who have the Adobe subscription. So log in. All right. So the cool thing about Mixamo, let me blow up my window, is Mixamo is a great character rigging tool for people who really who are on a short deadline or might not have the knowledge base. For me, to rig a character to dance or something like that would be just completely beyond me. So for me, Mixamo is a great tool. They have a lot of characters that you can use to download. You can also use platforms like Dash 3D, but they also, what really makes this powerful is they have animations that you can use in Cinema 4D. And you can actually begin to piece these animations together to do one long string of, animation to tell some story or some action. So it's really cool. So we're going to use the character that I use, which is already right here. I believe he's like on the second or third page. Yeah, he's on the second page. So this is the character that I use. So once you click on him, he'll come in a T pose, but then you can just click over here to animations and you can begin to, play with some of these animations just to see which one you want. So for me, I know I wanted him to be running because I wanted him to be on the trackpad. So this animation right here, and then I'll click in place. All right. So everything looks pretty good to me. You can change the style, the speed, the overdrive, the character's arm space, trim. So play with all these. These are pretty cool. They react really quickly. So once you have this, just hit download. Then we're going to download this. I'm going to save it to my desktop, or you can save it to the folder where you can save all your files. All right, desktop. So that is done. So we're going to actually pause this so it's not wasting any RAM or anything. I don't think it is. So we're going to jump back into C4D, and we're actually going to go to File, Open. You're going to file that .fbx file. Excuse me, you're going to find that .fbx file that you just created. I'm going to go to Open. So this this window should pop up. You're going to hit OK. All right, now you have your animation in C4D, which is, again, cool. Progress is being made. So to start out, to show you that your animation is not looping, it's only at 19 frames right here. We're going to actually increase the frame rate. Like this. So you can see that it stops. So what we're going to do now is loop your character. So we're going to actually click into this window right here and drag. So you can select all of them. Hit Option click or Alt G. They'll create a folder. And you want to name your character. I just name him Player 1. All right. Now what we're going to do is go to Window. We're going to go to Dope Sheet, Timeline Dope Sheet. Then you have this, so this is going to show. Now we're going to click on Summary. And when you do that, this window should populate right here. So track properties, very important. So we're going to go to After. We're going to go to Repeat. And this is how you actually make your animation loop. Now there's other ways if you want to do a perfect loop. I'll explain that in a different tutorial, but for this, the animation isn't going to be a perfect loop. So you have repetition, it's only looping one time. So we're actually going to choose some long number just to ensure that it's the duration of the actual footage. So for me, if it's 19 frames per for the animation, then that's one iteration. If you do it 100 times, 19 frames, you can just do that math and you can see how long the actual animation will be. If it's too long, it's too short, make adjustments. So we're going to increase that repetition to 100. And now when we play, you see he's going to keep going. So on mine, you really don't see it, but on yours, you probably will see where this will be silhouetted out, but you can see that it'll continue to loop. So really not important as long as it's looping. So we got him good to go. So now we're going to hit Player 1, click on it, Command C to copy it. We're going to jump back into the football window. So go to Window, jump back to the other. All right, and then you're going to hit Command V. So your Player 1 character did come in. As you can see, it's right here. It's really small. So this is fine. Just leave it where it is right now. We're going to click on Player 1, go to Coordinates. Actually, I'm going to leave him right here. So if you remember in After Effects, This orange one was the one that I set to origin, and it also was the very next one that I created. So it was the very first track solid. So I believe this is like the best solid. So we're actually going to drag the player one onto this track solid. We're going to just like drop them in. It's going to create like a hierarchy, right? Now, once you're on player one, you see the coordinates have changed. We're going to zero them out. I'm going to zero out the coordinates. Oh, excuse me, I dragged them onto the wrong one. So this is the solid. So we're going to do the same thing, just zero them out. All right. So he's on the orange solid. So to make them bigger, we're going to go down here to object, click on this model object. Then we're going to hit scale. You can hit T on your keyboard as a shortcut as well. Then we're going to just make them bigger. This is very important because if you just try to flat out blow him up using the scale tool, he has limbs, so that'll actually mess up the character. So this is kind of like the right way to do it, right? So he's at a good size. I want to rotate him by hitting R on the keyboard or going right up here. Then I'm going to drag him on his foot. Make sure it's kind of above that area. Then we're going to hit play. Now even cooler. So your character is now in your footage, but don't get confused. This is just a background plate. So the footage isn't really there yet, but yeah, so your character is there. So that's pretty cool. All right. So just to double check that your character is on the ground, we're going to click right here, which will switch to the perspective windows, the top view, the right view, and the front view. So just the angles, that's to see where you're at. And I thought so my character is a little bit too high. So I'm gonna just go here, click on your character, bring them down a little bit. So I'm using the front view. All right, we're gonna switch back to this perspective view. All right, looks pretty good to me. Cool, so what we're now gonna do is just work on the lighting, and I'm gonna export this back to, or save this out so we can export it and composite it back into the footage using After Effects. So now we're going to work on the lighting. So we're actually going to click here back onto our background texture. I'm going to name this background. Click off that. Background. Now we're gonna hit Command C, Command V to copy and paste it so you have a copy of it. So you're gonna click on the color channel. That texture that we just dragged in, you're gonna hit here, hit the arrow, copy shader, uncheck the color channel. We're gonna check the luminance channel. We're gonna hit on the texture on this arrow, look for a page shader. All right. Now we're going to go over here, create a sky. So the texture you just created with the luminance channel, drag it onto the sky. And then we're going to use this to get a more accurate lighting of the character. But first we're going to click on the sky, right click it, go to C4D tags, go to Compositing. Click on the tag and uncheck Scene by Camera. All right. So now we're going to also just drop in a light into the scene. I'm going to just move this up. And now this is where, if you're using my footage, you're going to just try to replicate where the light is in the scene. Same goes if you're using for your footage. You're going to just try to place the lights where you believe the light is coming from in the scene to give a more accurate render. All right, so we're actually going to turn my background plate back on. So as you can see, the lighting is kind of already making changes, or you can see the changes real time. So for me, you can tell the lighting is coming from back here because it's wrapping around the actual computer. So this is kind of hard video to composite with the light wrapping around. There's techniques that we can use in post to have a light wrapped around the character as well, so we can blend in better, but we'll do that for another day. So we'll just start out placing the light, and then we'll do a couple test shots, right? So the character looks good, but you're like, where's the shadow? So on the light, go to general, shadow, none. I'm gonna change that. So shadow matte soft. All right. I just keep changing, playing with the lighting. And I might fast forward this so you guys don't have to just see all this. But as you can see, the shadow is there, and it is actually using the track solid. So we're gonna actually turn off the track solids using the arrow. So the track solid is hidden, but the player and everything there is still there. So somewhat still visible. So we're gonna create a plane next. Then we're gonna drag this plane to the same hierarchy with the track solid. Same, zero it out. Yeah, okay. All right, so that is the right coordinates. Then we're gonna just enlarge. So if you use the main arrow, you can use these handles to make it actually larger. So I want to try to make mine pretty much the size of the trackpad, but you also want to kind of be aware of the angles and different things like the lines, because I kind of want to make it line up, you know, with the computer and the mouse and trackpad. But I also want to have this long enough to be in the accurate place of where the shadows are going to be, if that makes sense. So see where it cuts too short, so I'm going to need this longer. All right, so there is the player. Here is our character. Move this over a little bit. And I only have one light in the scene, but this is just for an example to show you guys how far you can go with this. All right. So now all we have to do is hide this track layer or our floor. So we're actually going to drag the background texture that we created onto the plane. Right, now you have the footage on the scene. Would you say it looks pretty funky? That's because you need to go over here to the plane, click on the texture, projection, UV, W mapping. I'm going to change to frontal. Then we're going to right click on plane, C4D tags, compositing, composite background. All right. Now we're going to hit render. And now, yes, your character is composited onto your footage. All right, so one thing that I do want to do is kind of just dent the shadow is a little too harsh to me. So we can go into our light, and here you can click on the shadow tab and just lower the density. So for me, I'm going to do say 70. Oops. Light, shadow tab, 75. All right, let's look at that. Yeah, so it looks a little better. All right, and if you want, you can continue to add lights and different things from here. But pretty much we're going to go ahead and save this out. And before we save it out, we're going to hit File, Save, and we're going to just jump back into, we're going to close this down. You don't need it anymore. We're going to jump back into After Effects, and we're going to, in this panel here, double click and find the file that you've just been working on in Cinema 4D. We're going to bring that back into After Effects. And you can drag this onto the timeline. Just want to take a second. And yeah, so now you can view everything in After Effects as well, real time. You can change your render to current, draft, final, different things like that. Final renderer will show you what it looked like, but mine, I'm just doing this to make sure everything is lining up. So when I come back, when I render everything out and bring it back in, to ensure that it's lining up with the footage properly. So yeah, everything looks pretty good. So we're actually going to turn this eyeball off. And then we're going to go back into Cinema 4D. We're going to focus on exporting now. So I'm going to actually, before exporting, just add an extra light, just to light my character a little better. And this light, I actually don't need the shadow. I'm just going to use it as a fill light. All right, cool. So this is just stay organized, just kind of keep that. You can rename your layers, I normally do, but the second time I'm gonna keep going. So File, Save. We're gonna go to our render settings. So if you guys like this, I'll show you how to create this in Arnold Render. I have a Mac, so Octane, different things like that. If you have one of the newer Macs, Redshift and Octane don't work on them, to my best of my knowledge, or at the time of me shooting this. So I use the Arnold renderer, but for this, we're gonna use the physical render. And if you don't have Cinema 4D R20, or if you're using the light version, you might have physical. If not, you can still use the standard render. So first, we're going to click on Output. This is everything should have been brought in. So just lock aspect ratio. Make sure all frames are selected. Make sure your frame rate is accurate. When I brought it in, the footage was brought in at 30 frame rates. So physical, go down here. You can just increase, the sampling quality if you want, but this will increase the frame, the render time. So I'll just do medium. You can use depth of field, motion blur. Motion blur give the character more of a realistic blur, because especially since he's moving, so you kind of want to have this on. We'll worry about depth of field and all that later. Multi-pass. So I'm going to hit save. Make sure that's checked. You're going to choose where you want this saved. And to be honest, make sure you save it in a folder. Football player. Because it'll spit. What we're about to do is save a lot of images, PNG sequences, or .xl, .exr. So save as character, just continue to name it again. I'll just put player 1. And in format, you can use a PNG sequence, but the standard is OpenEXR. For the industry standard is OpenEXR. And because we have our sequence in After Effects already set up to use 32 bits, which uses more information, we'll go ahead and use the standard. Make sure alpha channel. Sorry guys, I'm a little stuffed up. Make sure alpha channel is selected. All right. And then we're gonna go down here to multipass. So we're actually gonna uncheck that because you really don't need that. But one thing you can do to make your effect look better is go to Effect, Ambient Inclusion, Global Illumination. Also, if you have the time, but this actually will definitely increase your render time. So I'll uncheck that. But if you have the time, select Global Illumination. All right. Everything else seems to be pretty good. So from here, all you have to do is hide your background plate and render it out. So this is important. Make sure you hide your background plate. So we're gonna double check on these eyes to make sure they're red. And then we're going to just hit play and make sure everything's running properly. All right. So this is important. Make sure you hide that background plate because that'll increase your render time, and you don't need that when it comes to compositing. So this is essentially everything you will need. So I'm gonna go here, render to picture viewer, and it will actually begin to save out your files to screen in this folder. So this will take some time. I know, be patient. To be honest, depending on the length of your clip or how high def it is, it'll really take a long time, especially if your computer is not fast enough. So take a break, but what I do is honestly, I'll let things like this render overnight. So when you wake up, you'll have something, to look forward to. It should be done. You don't have to deal with that, 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour render. So we're going to let that continue to work. And yeah, guys, I'll check back in with you when this is done. All right, guys, I know that took a while, but after that, you should actually have a folder that contains your .exr sequence. So that's pretty cool. So we're actually gonna go jump back into After Effects, go to File, Import, File. All right, we're gonna find that folder where we just created those .exr files. Click on the very first one and hit Open EXR Sequence. Right? Just drag it right above the footage. Cool. So as you can see, your footage, your character is now over your footage. So for me, my character ends right here, and I made my sequence a little too long. So we're gonna actually just trim that, hit end, trim to comp to work area. So now my character is the full length of the timeline. So for these right here that have the eyeballs hidden, I'm I'm going to leave the Cinema 4D file, but I'm going to highlight all of the other ones. And I'm actually going to hit this key right here. And then, which is the Shy Guy. So I know it sounds kind of confusing, but just do it. And then you're gonna hit this. So this is gonna hide all the layers. So the layers are still there. Just helps keep everything organized. So your Cinema 4D file is still there. So you can continue to do this like I just turned it on second to second. But you can do stuff like that to make sure stuff aligns. But yeah, it's just a little off. The time it can do that. So you really don't even need this anymore. So we can hide this. All right. So now all you have to do is worry about getting the color, essentially color grading, just making sure the color and everything is real and, you know, kind of brings everything together. We could have done another thing where I made a multi in After Effects. Essentially, I would have made a multi-pass EXR render where I could have rendered out a specific channel for the character, a specific channel for the shadow and the floor, so I can have more control. But kind of do it the quick and dirty way. So right now I'm just trying to play with the color. It doesn't have to be too excessive because actually the color came in really well. So let me just restart that. All right, so I lowered it a little bit to get that floor to blend in a little more. All right. So here you can do the camera lens blur. So that gives it blends in a little even more. So we'll do like 3. And I'll link a tutorial below that's done by one of my favorite Cinema 4D designers, but he actually talks about how to integrate the characters into your footage a little bit better. He just talks about how to get that light to wrap around your character and some of the tricks, and by adding noise and different things like that. So we have the blur. I'll do one more where I'll just add, you know, noise. I have a renoiser, but we're not gonna worry about that. We'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So we'll add like very minimal amount of noise. But the character did come in somewhat perfect in the footage, even though it's 4K, it's not perfect. So, you know, they'll definitely help it blend in even more. And yeah, everything looks pretty good. I'm real technical. I can see this line right here. So all you need to do, honestly, is click the pen tool, click on your character, and just mask out right before the harsh line. I kind of don't want to do that because I see that this, yeah, right here. So really what I should have done is just kind of extend the floor a little bit more. But, you know, we learn. So I'm actually not going to create a mask. I should have just, I can, but the mask is going to somewhat cut the floor, the shadow. Well, I guess I could. I just feather it out real hard. All right. Again, I wish I could have just extended the floor. So quick fix. What if God doesn't want to kill you? So all I gotta do is play with these masks, but for time's sake, we'll just delete the mask. To be honest, the real way I would have did it is I just would have went back and corrected this. Either just re-exported a new EXR. For me, it wasn't that bad, so I can just make it where it comes to this line. So again, be aware of the edges. So that's a learning tip, real time. But overall, we actually have our character down. We've applied a noise, Gaussian, and we've applied a curves to match the blending a little bit better. Let's just add a levels adjustment, well, curves, but we'll use it to play with the color. So RGB, we can go into the actual color channels, and play with it a little more. But what I'm going to do, instead of putting it on just the character, we're going to put it on an adjustment layer to get everything to blend a little bit better. So I actually can brighten this with a little S curve. And then we're going to play with the green and blue channel. Alright, I just want to do it like this little cool feel. And yeah, you can do a noise one more time. We'll just do to add noise to the whole image. And then we can add new solid. We're gonna add a vignette, black. Let's do BG. Go to your circle mask, create a circle like this. Go to the mask. And I know there's a lot of different ways to do this, but this is the way we're doing it right now. So check invert, and we're gonna just feather the crap out of this, right? So I have mine at about 900. And then toggle switches, because I want this blend mode. You can add soft light. Hit T, you can lower the opacity. Excuse me. Yeah, so pretty cool. Now we have our model. So that's really cool. So, all right, guys, that brings the conclusion of our tutorial. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. I'll definitely try to get back to you as soon as possible. Please follow my website at awilliamsproductions.com. If you guys have any inquiries or you want any collaborations or anything like that, stay tuned. I'll be here real soon for my next tutorial, doing something cool. So I'll see you guys soon.